On the previous episode of History Bubble, the Stalinist government lost the war against the Afghan Maidan. Infighting had begun in the Maidan ranks as they had won the war. Three main groups were now fighting for power in Afghanistan. These were the government, the rebel coalition of Gulbuddin, Dostum and Abdul, and the newly formed Taliban. Taliban started military in the end of 1994 with the set goal of stopping corruption and ending the war by bringing an Islamic government to the country. Taliban was at first a group of Afghan refugees who fled to Pakistan, rallying under a man named Muhammad Omar to go back. Omar had with him only 50 to 100 men in the beginning, but word spread quickly and others started to join him, to march with him and fight with him for Afghanistan. Taliban moved into Kandahar, the second largest city in Afghanistan, which had also endured a lot of fighting during this time. They captured the city, and this was an important victory for Taliban, but also an easy one. The president of Afghanistan, Rabini of Yumbishimili, refused to step down at the end of his term, and just kinda got another one after that. Dostum. And the rest of Yumbishimili had stopped fighting in Kabul and moved to northwestern Afghanistan, capturing villages and cities, making them under their control. Ghazni was now captured by Taliban, who now set their eyes on Kabul, capturing minor settlements on the way. When Taliban came to the outskirts of Kabul, Gulbuddin and his men fled, knowing they would lose the battle. This led to Taliban taking control of Gulbuddin's artillery. Hezab-e-Wadat had not come to the same conclusion as Gulbuddin, now stuck between the government forces led by Ahmad Massoud and the Taliban. The forces scattered, some fleeing, others joining either Taliban or the government. Abdul, the leader, joining the former. The following months, Kabul endured a lot of fighting, with not any real advancement except for thousands of deaths. Short truces and ceasefire was signed, but they all ended quickly. Afghanistan's third largest city, Herat, was now under Taliban control. Gulbuddin and Hezab-e-Islami Gulbuddin now come back to Kabul, leaving the city surrounded by all sides. The Taliban left at Kandahar, now suffered from enemy fighting. Taliban started a new offensive with their new allies Pakistan and Al-Qaeda. Massoud, leading the government forces, left the city, leaving only small local resistances to fight the oncoming threat of the Taliban. This was at this time support for Taliban shrunk drastically as they showed their real self. When they entered the city, they massacred the local Shia, Hazara and former communist officials of the Massoud and the forces moved north to the northeast part of the country, where the former government started the new base of operation. Massoud allied himself with Dostum to fight the Taliban. Gulbuddin was once again on the offensive, trying to capture Kabul from the Taliban. Gulbuddin was soon defeated and convinced to join Taliban, allying with them. Now Taliban could move through the country without any real resistance, except for in the north. In the north they had created the United Front, or Northern Alliance, that mainly consisted of Massoud and Dostum forces, but also smaller resistance groups like the remnants of Hezab-e-Wadat. They had also many foreign allies like India, Turkey, Russia, China, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. Many people fled from other areas to the areas of the United Front to escape the Taliban onslaught. The Northern Alliance also tried to create a more democratic society there for them in the north. The war continued and Taliban went on the offensive against Dostum and his Yumbishimili in northwestern Afghanistan, conquering some of his territory and routing many of his forces and commanders. They also attacked the main strategic point in the north, Pencewar Valley, but this place had many defensive capabilities, leading to Massoud's forces holding the valley. On the 9th of December 2001, an assassination attempt was made on Massoud and succeeded. Two Al-Qaeda members, acting as supporters, hid bombs in their cameras, and when they exploded, they killed two men, one of them being Massoud. His death was huge for the Afghan. He was named a national hero and got an holiday named after him. in his honor. They even tried to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize, even though he contributed so much in wars. He had made northeastern Afghanistan a safe haven with police, medical care and education, things the rest of the country never could dream of. So as you can guess, this devastated the United Front, and in the beginning many refused to believe he was dead. Later a popular war cry became, "Now we're all Massoud." 2 days after Massoud's death, the attack on the Twin Towers happened, leaving many to believe that these events are linked. This led to the USA getting involved in the war, because Taliban were hiding and protecting Al-Qaeda forces. With the help of US airstrikes and lust for revenge, the United Front made notable advancement against Taliban during this time. The USA also brought in allies mainly from NATO, like Canada, France, the UK. With this much assistance, the United Front almost brought out the Taliban of the country completely, making them flee to their Pakistani allies. But the Taliban under Muhammad Umar soon regrouped and attacked southern Afghanistan. They used guerrilla tactics to attack military bases there in the south of the country. As time progressed, these attacks increased in frequency, and a large group of Taliban was gathering in the Zabul province. This large group was soon defeated by the Afghan army, with much help from US air support. At that time, Hamid Karzai was elected president, ending the long rule of Rabini. The war was going in the favor of Afghanistan, and Taliban did not have much power. But Taliban was still rising in numbers, and so was the foreign armies. In 2009, another election took place. Many attacks were made on the places where you could vote to try to scare off the population. Hamid Karzai was once again elected. In 2011, Osama bin Laden was killed, and the USA and NATO had now completed most of their goal in Afghanistan and started to withdraw. This certainly did not mean Taliban was defeated, and in 2011 and 2012 respectively, there were 30,000 Taliban attacks, with the withdrawal scheduled to end in 2014, but as the attacks increased, this was delayed. In 2013, all the NATO forces that fight Al-Qaeda was gone, but there were still smaller anti-terrorist groups. In 2014, ISIS started to take over small parts of Afghanistan. In the spring of this year, 2016, Taliban said they were launching a new offensive. The same month, a big terrorist attack struck the country, killing 64 and injuring around 300. Another attack happened, killing 80 and wounding around 250. And as of fall 2016, Taliban is in control of around 20% of the country. ISIS 2% and the government the rest. The war has been going on for 40 years, has required 1,250,000 to 2 million lives. That is the same amount as around the population of Gabon, Estonia or Latvia. This video has to end now on this sad note, and then my next video will come out, and that will be about Albania. See you then.